1783. 8 years of bloody struggle against the British Empire concluded. The Americans were victorious. The world witnessed the birth of a new republic, but this victory was merely a false sense of relief, because achieving independence was only half the battle. The far greater challenge was sustaining that liberty. In just 4 years, the country teetered on the brink of a profound crisis, facing the possibility of civil war or anarchy. Today, we delve into that historic period, a time when not a king, but a group of visionary thinkers had to build from scratch a government that would maintain the delicate balance between power and freedom. How did the world's most enduring democracy emerge from weakness, insolvency, and deep division? In this journey, we will uncover the saga of extreme challenges faced in forming America's first government. After the war, America's first governing structure was under the Articles of Confederation. It was essentially a league of friendship among 13 independent states, but this friendship was built on a foundation of sand. A government without authority, the weak center. The core problem was crippling fear. The framers were so terrified of creating a new tyranny that they gave the central authority virtually zero power. This fear created a vacuum. Let's look at the fatal flaws that emerged. The weak center. The government under the Articles lacked a functioning executive, president, or a national judiciary, court system. The central structure was unicameral and largely powerless. No power to tax. The central government had no authority to levy or collect taxes. It was dependent on the states' voluntary contributions to pay off the massive Revolutionary War debt, and those funds rarely arrived. A frustrated George Washington remarked that their government had no money. Legislative gridlock. Passing even minor laws required the approval of 9 out of 13 states, and any amendment required unanimous consent, making any meaningful change virtually impossible. Economic and border crises. Without money or central authority, the young republic quickly found itself paralyzed, unable to deal with mounting economic debts and humiliation from foreign powers. Trade wars. The central government could not regulate interstate commerce. Each state imposed tariffs on goods from other states, crippling the entire economy. Foreign humiliation. Taking advantage of this weakness, the British refused to evacuate crucial military forts on American soil. The Spanish closed the critical trade route of the Mississippi River to American commerce. The central government's helplessness was a national embarrassment. Shays Rebellion, the warning shot. The ultimate proof of the government's failure came not from abroad, but from within. A domestic rebellion showed the world just how close America was to total collapse. In 1786, debt-ridden farmers in Massachusetts revolted. This was a direct expression of popular discontent against the government. The challenge: the central government was unable to raise a military force or funds to quell the rebellion. Massachusetts ultimately had to raise a local, privately funded army to suppress the uprising. The realization: Shays Rebellion was an extreme danger signal. Leaders like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton realized that without a stronger framework, the country would either descend into anarchy or be carved up by European powers. In May 1787, 52 delegates gathered in the State House in Philadelphia under strict rules of secrecy. Their formal goal was to revise the Articles, but deep down, they aimed to create an entirely new government. Under the presidency of George Washington, this convention became a stage for fierce political battles. The historic debates. The most intense fight was over representation. It was the core of the problem. The Virginia Plan, backed by the large states, demanded that representation be based purely on population. In direct opposition, the smaller states rallied behind the New Jersey Plan, which demanded equal representation for every state, regardless of its size. After bitter arguments, they reached the monumental Great Compromise. A true stroke of genius, a bicameral legislature would be formed, featuring the Senate with equal representation, 2 members per state, and the House of Representatives with population-based representation. They wanted a strong central government, but the fear of a new tyranny was palpable. The solution was an elegant architectural design. Power was divided into 3 distinct branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. A rigorous system of checks and balances was instituted, a critical safeguard to prevent any one branch from becoming too dominant. The convention, however, was haunted by the dark shadow of slavery. Southern states pushed a deeply moral concession, demanding their large slave populations be counted for greater political representation, but conveniently ignored when it came to taxation. The resulting 3/5 compromise was a bitter pill. A slave would be counted as 3/5, 3/5 of a person for both taxation and representation. This decision, a stain on the new republic, sowed the seeds of future division. The Constitution was written, but to take effect, it needed approval from at least 9 states. A new political war began: Federalists versus Anti-Federalists. The nation fractured into 2 camps. On one side stood the Federalists, intellectual heavyweights like Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay. They passionately championed the strong central government outlined in the Constitution. Their essays, the Federalist Papers, remain the foundational text for understanding the Constitution today. Opposing them were the Anti-Federalists, whose voice was perhaps best captured by Patrick Henry. They deeply feared that the powerful new central government would inevitably threaten individual liberties and lead to a tyranny, chillingly reminiscent of the monarchy they had just overthrown. The ultimate concession: the Bill of Rights. Facing intense and unyielding opposition, the Federalists knew a final, crucial compromise was necessary. They made a solemn promise to the American people. They would immediately add a list of fundamental individual rights to the document after the Constitution was ratified. This promise was the turning point. In 1791, the Bill of Rights, guaranteeing fundamental rights like freedom of speech, religion, and the right to a fair trial, was officially added to the Constitution. Without this historic addition, this core document might never have been approved. Washington's new government. In 1789, the new government began its work. The challenges were far from over. In fact, a new set of challenges had just begun: Washington's precedents. George Washington was unanimously elected the first president. He had no manual. Every action he took set a precedent for future American leaders. For instance, in what became known as the title debate, he rejected suggestions for lofty, royal titles like His Highness, establishing the democratic and simple title, Mr. President or President of the United States. Creating the judicial system was one of the first government's most critical challenges. The Judiciary Act of 1789 created the structure for the Supreme Court and lower federal courts, establishing a national judicial system from scratch. The Shays Rebellion, the ultimate test. The new government's power was tested in 1794, when farmers in Pennsylvania rebelled against a federal tax on whiskey, a measure implemented as part of Hamilton's financial plan. It was an echo of Shays Rebellion, the ghost of the old. Weak government returning to challenge the new. But this time, the government did not hesitate. In a decisive display of power, President Washington personally led an army of 13,000 troops to the region. The rebels immediately surrendered without bloodshed. The historical significance of this event was profound. It proved that the new federal government was not weak. It had laws, and critically, it had the power to enforce those laws, a capability the Articles of Confederation government had utterly lacked. America did not just win a war. They won a war of ideas. Through the weakness of the Articles, the threat of Shays Rebellion, the heated debates of the convention, and the moral crisis of slavery, they navigated every challenge to discover the true formula for a stable government, limiting power while ensuring the freedom of its citizens. The U.S. Constitution is not just a document. It is the culmination of a victory over those historic challenges, making it one of the most unique and enduring frameworks for governance in world history. This is the challenging saga of America's birth. Thanks for watching my video.